There are many different styles of music. To understand the basic building blocks of melody, harmony, and rhythm, and how to bring them in conjunction to inversions and into your composition with arranging with different instrumentation is never an easy mindset. On this episode of Music Ecology, we have someone who makes it seem so seamlessly easy and has a stellar career of composing and arranging for some of the top performers and artists around. On this episode of Music Ecology, we are proud to bring to you the president of the record label Inner Circle Music and jazz legend, Mr. Greg Osby.
I don't believe in leaving any stone unturned. You know, you have to, like, if you see something, you know, that you can use and is valid, I think it's good, you know, to find out as much as you can about it, to access it, to learn about it, to deconstruct it, to dissect it, and then incorporate that into your work. And then each, you know, thing you learn will be like a brick in the wall, and you're just building this brick wall of knowledge, and nobody can take that away from you.
Before we get into our interview with legendary jazz saxophonist Greg Osby, we want to say that any lessons taught on this episode of Music Ecology can be found underneath our Music of Elements chart, Basic Harmony chart, and Piano Inversions. If you have any questions after the show, feel free to log on to your free account on musicecology.com. Today on Music Ecology, we'd like to welcome the legendary jazz saxophonist and composer, Mr. Greg Osby. Welcome, Greg. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
My tastes in music are influenced by contemporary trends, nature, my unending quest for information, my curiosity, and my natural born restlessness and desire to learn and to keep moving forward. So all this stuff informs my art, my craft, keeps me learning, keeps me from getting stale or letting the cobwebs grow around me, you know.
Are there any musicians that you enjoyed playing with more so than the other?
Oh, there's a long list of great musicians whom I played with, and you know, they've been so inspiring. People like Herbie Hancock and Jack DeJohnette, Dizzy Gillespie. Oh man, I could be here all day.
Now in this section of our book here of Music Ecology, the Music Elements chart, we're going to take a little bit more time and be a little bit more extensive about breaking down what this chart is. I know I go over it in multiple episodes, but this is how prevalent it is to your development as a player, that you know these notes and know the relationships of these notes, and not only just know them physically, but be able to identify them as they're being played. This makes a barrage of different colors of sounds to pick from that could change the feel of your composition. Now, if you're changing the feel of your composition, to know these notes and know how it affects the human ear and the human element to get across the emotion that you're looking to deliver, the relationship and the key chi of music is in the center of these 12 tones. How many hours out of the day do you practice?
All day, every day. And a typical day doesn't find me going to bed until maybe 4:30 in the morning. So I'm walking around the house playing and practicing. I have a saxophone in the kitchen. I have one in my music room. I have one in my study, and I may have one, at another part of the house. So whenever I'm inspired, I can pick up a horn and play. I've never been a fan of practicing non-stop for several hours at once, because not only is it tiresome, but it also wears out your muscles. You have to give your muscles a chance to recuperate.
What type of warm-ups do you do?
As a warm-up device, they play long tones, which I learned not to do so much when I was a resident full-time in New York, because that drives people mad. It sounds like the ships are coming in, or a stampede or something. So I would warm up on a slow piece, a ballad, play something very long and evocative, and try to play it as beautifully as possible. So that way, it's gainful, because you're learning and developing a pretty sound at the same time, and you're not driving the neighbors mad.
At the plateau of an artist that you've reached and a master musician, do you still use scales for warm-ups?
Well, despite where you are in your development or your career or wherever, you still have to maintain certain staples that keep you grounded. These particulars are scales, arpeggios, theory, harmony exercises, all this stuff. These are installations in the music, and yes, I drill myself on all of that knowledge just to make sure that it's intact, because you can get so far away from those grounding basics that you'll be so far out there, and what you're playing and what you're doing and writing, it'll have no relationship, to the base effort. You have to have foundation.
Well, let me ask you, where did you professionally study music? Take me through your history of studying.
Initially, I studied music. Well, let's go back. I started playing in the early 1970s. 1972, I played clarinet, and then practically less than a year later, I graduated to saxophone, alto saxophone, and I was good enough in less than a year to play in some local bands. So it was almost destiny. I took to the instrument very quickly because I was very eager, very enthusiastic. I practiced a lot, and I was playing in bands by the time I was 13 and 14 with guys who were in their late 20s and 30s. And so I became the young funky cat. This was in the 70s, and this is before synthesizers and MIDI and samples, so you actually had to have real musicians playing. So we had these huge bands with a 4-piece horn section, maybe 2 drummers, 2 guitars, 3 women singers, 1 male singer, percussion. It was like these huge reviews. And so I learned on-the-job training, during the weekends and over the summers, playing in these live groups. So they were primarily R&B, blues-based, and funk and soul. And then in 1978, I got a scholarship to go to Howard University. And that's when I really immersed myself in the properties of jazz and higher learning and more intellectual and challenging art, the more challenging side of expression. So I recommend that kind of situation for a couple of years, and I transferred to Berklee College of Music in Boston, which was a really great turning point in my development, because Berklee is a conservatory, so there's nothing but music there. There's one thing to be at a university where you're at a college of fine arts, and then you have the College of Medicine and law and engineering and all these other distractions.